All right. Welcome and good evening to this Tuesday, November 16th, 2021 meeting of the Raymore Planning and Zoning Commission. If you would please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. It will give us one more quick second before we do roll call. All right, Commissioner Bowie is present. Thank you. I should have waited one more second. I apologize. Commissioner Engert.
I'm present.
Commissioner Faulkner.
Present.
Vice Chair Fizer.
Present.
Commissioner Manser.
Present.
Secretary Peterman.
Present.
Commissioner Urquilla.
Present.
Mayor Turnbow.
Present.
And Chairman Wiggins is present. We do have all accounted for tonight. We have no personal appearances scheduled for this evening, so we will move into item 5, our consent agenda, which has one item, item A, approval of minutes from the October 19, 2021 meeting. I would entertain a motion to dispose of that item, please.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir, Mr. Fizer. Or Faulkner, excuse me.
That works.
F's.
Okay. Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
I move that we accept the consent agenda, including approval of minutes from October 19th.
I will second.
All right, I have a motion by Commissioner Faulkner, a second by Commissioner Manser to accept the minutes from the October 19th meeting, the consent agenda. Any discussion of the topic? All in favor? All opposed? And abstention? 801. So that passes, and we will move on to item 6, unfinished business. One item, which is case 21031, the Unified Development Code of the 34th Amendment. In which case, I would turn that over to staff, please.
Thank you, sir. As you will recall, back at your October 19th meeting, we had the public hearing. It was opened and closed. Regarding the 34th Amendment to the UDC, there were some corrections, as noted by the commission members, that needed to be made to the proposed bill. So I'll quickly walk through those. In looking at the bill included in your packet, under Section 1, was regarding language that no lots with any subdivision could be platted that contain any floodplain area. So you'll see where we have now crossed out the language that was in the code under Section 1A and have moved that language to a new sub-item C that brings it into consistency with the language that's already in the code for non-residential lots. Under Section 2, we corrected the section number of the sign code for the sign types permitted as 435.050. Section 3 was the proposed revision to code language on minor subdivisions, where if a subdivision is classified as minor, that would be allowed to be approved by staff. It wouldn't have to go to the commission or council. And under D procedure, we eliminated the city council actions section, and it just, rather than have just a number D1 for development services director review, it's just, we crossed out the numerical number 1. And then under Section 4, we added, it was mentioned by Commissioner Faulkner that we needed to also incorporate Section 470.010A if we make the change as a city to the minor subdivision code section. And so you'll reflect in the table summary of procedures that minor subdivision plats would be a decision from the development services director with an appeal to our Board of Adjustment. We also added that appeal to the Board of Adjustment of a decision from the director for replats. So those were the 4 requested changes to the ordinance by the commission at the last meeting. That will conclude our staff report on this.
Thank you, sir. Do any members of the commission have any questions for staff? If not, I would entertain a motion to dispose of the item, please.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Mr. Faulkner.
I move that we accept staff proposed findings of fact and forward case 21031, 34th Amendment to the UDC to City Council with a recommendation of approval.
Second.
All right, I have a motion by Commissioner Faulkner, second by Commissioner Bowie, to accept the findings of fact and forward case 21031, the 34th, UDC Unified Development Code Amendment to City Council with a recommendation of approval. Any discussion on the matter? Seeing none, all in favor? Passes unanimously, 9-0. Thank you. That will conclude unfinished business, takes us into new business for this evening. We have 4 items. The first is item A, the election of officers. Also, city staff, please.
Yes, thank you, sir. The rules of procedure for the Planning and Zoning Commission dictate that your first meeting in November of each calendar year, the board is to select officers for the next year, starting November 1st. The current slate of officers: Chairman Wiggins, Vice Chair Pfizer, and Secretary Peterman. The staff would request nominations be made for those. You could accept the current slate of officers in its entirety if it's acceptable to the 3 current holders, or you could take these items individually if you like for nominations.
Simply note that if you're inclined to keep the same slate of individuals serving as chair, vice chair, and secretary, we need to make sure that those individuals are accepting of that particular role moving forward. If not, we need to have a nomination and vote for the others.
Very good. Thank you. Do we have any nominations for this evening? Would anybody be inclined to make a recommendation of keeping the positions as is? And would individuals who have those positions like to maintain them, if so? Secretary Peterman, if inclined? Vice Chair?
Yeah, I'm fine.
And likewise. So, entertain a
Mr. Chair?
discussion. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that we retain the officers as slate as previously filled the last year.
A second.
All right, I have a motion by Mayor Turnbow and a second by Commissioner Bowie to maintain the officer positions as they currently sit. Any discussion on the topic? All those in favor? Passes unanimously, 9-0. Thank you. Moving right along, item B, the 2022 meeting calendar for the Planning and Zoning Commission. Sir?
In your packet this evening, we included the proposed meeting calendar for 2022. This calendar is utilized by our applicants for the various filing deadlines for Planning Commission meeting dates, as well as used by staff for the public hearing notice to the neighboring residents and publication of notice in the newspaper. It also includes the corresponding city council dates. In past years, there have been some evenings where there was conflict with elections because this room was used as a polling place in years past, but over the last couple of years, now with Centerview taking over that role, we don't have those meeting conflicts. So you'll see we have put down for our meeting dates the first and third Tuesday of each month with the corresponding filing deadlines. What we ask is, if this calendar is acceptable, it should have a motion to accept the calendar for 2022.
Thank you, sir. Any questions of staff or any perceived issues with the calendar as presented? If not, I would entertain a motion.
Chairman,
Sir.
I'd like to go ahead and make a motion to accept the 2022 Raymore Planning and Zoning Commission calendar, meeting and deadlines as presented by the staff.
I'll second that.
I have a motion by Commissioner Urquilla, second by Commissioner Ingert to accept the 2022 Planning and Zoning calendar as presented. Any discussion? If not, all those... Oh, yes, sir. Please, Mr. Bowie. Commissioner
This
Bowie.
is sort of off topic, but the current board members list that we always get, is that coming soon?
Yes, I'll include that with I'll include that with your next packet, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Perfect. No, that's a good question. All right. All those in favor? Seeing all the hands, that will pass unanimously. Thank you, guys. Moving right along. Move into item C, case 21039, Lemoore Estates, lots 7 and 8, a rezoning. This does require a public hearing, so I will open that at this time and ask the applicant, if present, to please come forward and present your case to the podium. Please make sure that the light on the microphone is lit.
Mr. Chair, the applicant did call us earlier tonight, and they had a family emergency, so they will not be here. However, they did ask that we proceed, if that's acceptable to this body.
If staff is ready to present on their behalf or provide the applicant's information, I see no problem. Mr. Zur?
I would simply note at the conclusion of staff report and conclusion of the public hearing, if there's still additional information the commission might need, it can be continued before making any final determination or vote. But given the applicant's desire to move forward, I think you have.
Thank you, Mr. Zur. Staff, please.
Sure. Good evening. Tonight you have in front of you a request to rezone lots 7 and 10 from Lemoore Estates, and that's RP1 to RP2, generally located north of West Lucy Webb Road and east of Old Paint Road. To the north you have R1 single-family residential. East is R2P single and two-family residential plan district. To the south is R1 and R2P, and to the west is R3B, apartment community residential district. The future land use map of the current growth management plan designates this property as appropriate for medium density residential. The major thoroughfare plan map classifies West Lucy Webb Road as the major collector, while Old Paint and Kreisel Drive are classified as local roads. With this being a rezoning, a public hearing was required, and so therefore we advertised in the Journal on November the 4th. And I'd like to enter in items of record for Exhibit 1, mailed notices to adjoining property owners. Exhibit 2, notice of the publication in the newspaper. Exhibit 3, Unified Development Code. Exhibit 4, the application. Exhibit 5, growth management plan, and the Exhibit 6, staff report. Tonight the request is essentially to rezone the two lots that you see there. It's lots 7 and 10 from R1P to R2P. Previous planning actions on this are quite a few that essentially they rezoned several different times, but land containing the Lemoore Estates subdivision was rezoned from agriculture to R1P and R2P as well as R3A in 1999. At the time of the rezoning, the land area to this west, now known as Timber Trail Subdivision, was zoned M1 Light Industrial District, and the R1P zoning designation for the Timber Trail Subdivision was established in February of 2004. The rezoning of the land in Lemoore Estates established the R2P and R3A zoning districts as a land use buffer adjacent to the industrial zone land to the west. The R1P land was established on the land along the west side of the creek, and in April of 2001, the zoning boundary of the line for R1P and R2P district for the land was adjusted. On October 22nd, 2004, the final plat for Lemoore Estates subdivision was recorded, and on July 9th, 2007, lots 7, 10, and 25 were rezoned from R2P to R1P. And adjustments were made to the applicable development standards for all lots in the subdivision as listed below. On May 13th, 2013, the City Council voted to deny the rezoning application, which would have rezoned lots 21 through 25, which is essentially single family to multifamily. Staff comments. The property was zoned R1P single family since July 8th of 2007, and at the time the owner indicated they would not be able to fit a two-family structure on the lot and requested the rezoning to allow for a single-family home. Lots 7 and 10 are both currently owned by the same person, Keith Waymeyer, Harper Building LLC. Mr. Waymeyer does have a building plan for a two-family structure that will fit on both lots 7 and 10 while respecting the required building setbacks. When Lemoore Estates was first planned and the approved lots 7 and 10 were zoned R2 to allow for two-family structures. There are two-family structures on the adjacent lots at lots 8 and 9, and two-family structures also exist on the 5 lots to the south of lots 7 and 10. Staff submits to you the staff proposed findings of fact, and this is the standard 1 through 11. City staff recommends the Planning and Zoning Commission accept the staff proposed findings of fact and forward case 21039 to rezone lots 7 and 10 from R1P to R2P. Staff will be happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you very much. Do members of the commission have any immediate questions for staff? Yes, Commissioner Kia.
Yeah, you mentioned there at the end that your recommendation was to change it from R1P to R2P.
Correct.
But the packet says R2 without the P, so we're missing the P.
You are correct, and then we had found that mistake on Monday, and so the standards are still in there as R2P. It was an error on our
Okay.
and so that would be corrected before City Council if this body was to approve it.
Okay. R2P specifically. Okay. Any additional commission questions before I? Yes, sir. Commissioner Mansur.
Please. The R2P designation with the P on the end, that designates that it's a planned development, correct?
Correct.
So will there be a final plat approval, a plat plan before homes are built on these two lots?
So the lots are already platted. It's just a change of zoning. And
Okay.
these lots have been zoned R2P before.
Okay.
And so they just were changed because the initial builder was not going to be able to fit them. And this builder that's come in to rezone thinks that they can fit them because they're going to go 2-story.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Okay. Since this is a public hearing, which I opened previously, I would invite any members of the public that wish to come and speak on this particular topic to please come forward to the podium. Please limit your comments to 5 minutes. And if you do come forward, please state your name and address for the record, please. So if anybody would like to speak on this particular rezoning, please come forward at this time. Okay, seeing none, I will close the public hearing on this issue and offer commission members a final chance to ask any additional questions, or if not, I would dispose of this item, please.
Chairman,
Sir.
I'd like to go ahead and make a motion.
Sure, absolutely.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the staff proposed finding the fact and forward case 21039, the rezoning of lots 7 and 10 from RP1 Single Family Residential Plan District to R2P Single and 2 Family Residential District to the City Council with recommendation for approval.
Second.
All right, I have a motion by Commissioner Key and a second by Commissioner Faulkner to accept city staff for the Planning and Zoning Commission to accept the staff proposed findings of fact and forward case 21039, rezoning of lots 7 and 10 from R1P Single Family Residential Plan District to R2P Single and 2 Family Residential Planned District to City Council for a recommendation of approval. Any discussion on the matter? If not, all in favor? Seeing all hands, it will pass unanimously. Thank you, 9-0. This will then take us to our final case of new business tonight, which is case 21036, the Estates at Knoll Creek preliminary plat. This item also requires a public hearing, which I will open at this time. And similar procedure, if the applicant will please come forward to the podium to present their case, please make sure that the microphone is lit green and speak into the microphone so that we can clearly hear you.
My name's Tyler Slee with Slee Real Estate Investments, LLC. Address is P.O. Box 6437, Lee Summit, Missouri 64064. I'm here tonight on behalf of the applicant for the expansion of the estates at Knoll Creek. What we have proposed tonight is something that's very similar to what the original plan was approved for Knoll Creek. The current phase 1, has been developed and built out. Everything to the east here is what we currently have the land under contract to purchase. The overall layout of the subdivision is essentially the same as what the original preliminary plat had shown. I think the only difference is some cul-de-sac configurations, which are different now than what was the city ordinance whenever this originally came through several years ago. And then there's an additional connectivity street that goes in the very southeast corner of the property that at some point would connect to the Alexander Creek subdivision that's to the south and east here. So there's a total of 79 lots to be developed. That'd probably be developed in 2 to maybe 3 phases, 30 to 40 lots at a time. The size of the lots would be comparable to what you see in the Estates in Knoll Creek Phase 1. Our plans for covenants and restrictions, size of homes, exterior materials of the houses would all be the same or similar to what you see in Phase 1 of the Estates in Knoll Creek. I think there's 3 or 4 different size requirements for different style houses that get built. So there's a common detention area that essentially splits phases 1 to 2, which you see it's kind of shaded in a little bit lighter color on this screen here. That would be part of what we acquire as well. So the landowner also owns that tract currently. That serves as the detention not only for phase 1, but also for this phase as well. So Dustin Burton with Renaissance Infrastructure, the civil engineering company, is here with me tonight too. So if there's any specific stormwater questions, he'll be happy to answer those. I think on the original preliminary plat, there was shown like a pedestrian walking trail that would go around that pond area. To my knowledge, I don't think any of that has been installed. Our plan would be to install that pedestrian walking trail with part of our first or second phase. There's a couple open space green tracks that we have included here. Most of those are really for BMP, so and stormwater quality requirements. So one of them is up in the kind of center part of that phase, and then the other one's up in the far northeast corner. Those areas, those couple open areas, along with the large detention area, would be something that will eventually be owned by the HOA and responsible. Ongoing maintenance and responsibilities for that will be part of the HOA at some point. So I think overall that kind of answers, and I think that's kind of our overall plan. We hosted a neighborhood meeting here several weeks ago. We had a pretty good turnout. I think we had probably 20 to 25 residents, some husband and wives, so maybe not 25 total households, but probably 20 to 25 people here. Had questions about some street connectivity, had questions about access in and out of the neighborhood, what our future plans were beyond Knoll Creek. We are the owners of Alexander Creek neighborhood to the southeast, so our neighborhood, our Alexander Creek neighborhood is currently developing to the north and to the west. So overall, our goal is to some point these neighborhoods would connect at some point, and that's kind of our east-west connectivity from Ward Road, which is all the way to the east of Alexander Creek, to the road that's to the west of phase 1 here. So we try to answer as many of those questions as we possibly could. Some of them are still a little unknown to us as far as some of the HOA structure and that sort of thing. But again, overall had good turnout, and try to answer as much as we possibly could. So happy to answer any questions that the Planning Commission has, staff or neighbors here tonight.
Do any members of the commission, before we get into the staff report, have any immediate questions? Commissioner Faulkner.
Just a quick one.
Sorry.
How many lots did you say would be in this development?
79.
Okay. There's a contradiction. Our paperwork is saying 76.
$76.
76 then, yeah.
I just
Yeah.
wanted to be on the same page. Thank
Yeah,
you.
my fault.
No worries. Any additional questions before we get into staff report? If not, Mr. Cataret, please. Oh,
Sure. So tonight you have in front of you a preliminary plat for approximately 36 acres. This is generally located at the undeveloped land east of existing Knoll Creek subdivision. Existing surrounding zoning, you've got to the north agriculture, to the south is unincorporated Cass County, to the east is agriculture, and to the west is R1 single family. Total tract size, again, is approximately 36 acres. Total number of lots is 76 with 5 common tracts. The future land use map and the current growth management plan designates this property as appropriate for low-density residential. The major thoroughfare plan classifies North Prairie Lane as a major collector and Halls Creek Avenue as a local road. With this being a preliminary plat, we were required to have a public hearing, and so therefore advertised it in the paper October 28th. We had a good neighbor meeting October 27th, and those notes are listed in your packet. Like to enter into the record a list of exhibits. Exhibit 1, mailed notices to adjoining property owner. Exhibit 2, notice of publication. Exhibit 3, the Unified Development Code. Exhibit 4, the application. Exhibit 5, the growth management plan. Exhibit 6, the staff report. And Exhibit 7, preliminary plat. Previous actions on the property was initially rezoned from agriculture district to R1 single family residential on October 13th, 2003. The original preliminary plat for the estates in Knoll Creek was approved on October 13, 2003, and there were 3 phases proposed for the subdivision with 56 homes in the first phase, and all those were completed. The final plat for phase 1 was approved May 10th of 2004. And the original estates at Knoll Creek preliminary plat expired May 10th of 2006. The Parks and Rec Board, just to kind of give a little bit of history, in June of 2003, the original preliminary plat for the estates in Knoll Creek voted to give the developer credit for recreational amenities planned for the proposed subdivision, and credit was given for 50% of the acreage in Tract C for the fishing ponds and the trail. The credit for amenities was in the amount of 7.366 acres, and also a fee in lieu for the amount of $16,330. On November the 9th of this year, the Park Board met again, and the applicant had requested essentially a fee in lieu in the amount of $80,256 and voted to accept that. Subject property is located within Cass County Public Water District number 3. And so the applicant has been made aware of that. Temporary cul-de-sacs will need to be constructed on the east end of Halls Creek Avenue, the southern end of Citadel Place, and the southern end of Normandy Drive. You have your list of proposed R1 district permitted uses, as well as the the setback standards for the lots of R1. Preliminary plat request was submitted to South Metro Fire, and they had 2 items that were listed as far as just for when the final plat were to come before this body as well. Stormwater will be maintained through the existing pond that's located to the west of the existing, located west of the proposed property and east of the existing. When the original preliminary plat was approved, the entire development, phases 1, 2, and 3, were all could all be detained in this pond that was existing. The pond would be the responsibility of the applicant to maintain until such time as deeded over to the homeowners association. A memorandum of understanding has been prepared and outlines the responsibilities for the developer. A 7-foot walking trail is to be constructed around the ponds as shown on the preliminary plat drawing. The trail will be required to be installed with the installation of public improvements on the first phase of the subdivision. And Citadel Place is designed to allow future connection to the extension, as you can see here in the picture. Craig's Glen Drive and Halls Creek Drive and Normandy Drive are all designed to allow for future expansion onto adjacent undeveloped land. The UDC requires utility extensions to the adjacent property to coincide with these street extensions. Staff submits to you proposed findings of fact, and that's 1 through 4. And staff recommends the Planning and Zoning Commission accept the staff proposed findings of fact in forward case 21036 for approval. Now that's subject to one condition, that's documentation being provided to the city prior to the city council meeting on December the 13th regarding the pond and how it's to be used. And there's an agreement between the two. So staff will be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, sir. Do any members of the commission have any questions for either staff or the applicant? Anybody? I've got a quick one. Kind of somewhat related. I believe it was MoDOT in recent history had talked about putting maybe in some roundabouts on 58. Is that still something that's going on? And what would those locations be, if so?
Mr. Chairman, there is a roundabout proposed at Prairie Lane and at Ward Road. MoDOT recently awarded the contract for those, and we do anticipate work starting in the spring.
Okay, so it's both of those. Okay, because I was curious about the connecting street and the roundabout, how that might impact some traffic. That was my only question. Does anybody else have any questions or comments? Okay. Well, since this is a public hearing which has been opened, similar to the previous one, I do invite the public to come and comment at this time. Please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record. Please limit your comments to 5 minutes. And if anybody has additional comments that have already been made, please just note dittos as opposed to reiterating the same thing multiple times over. So, with that, sir,
Thank
please
you.
go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Matt Dorsey. I'm the HOA president of Knoll Creek Estates. I'm talking with the community, with them already developing in the southeast corner of Alexander Creek, which they're still developing. The community would like them to start phase 2 instead of phase 1 first, instead of coming through a 20-year community and instead they can go through a community they're still currently developing in that southeast corner.
Anything else?
Well, he mentioned that they will take care of the lake, but why have we been doing it for the last 10 years then? Because I have it in here. It was a pond, it was a creek, but Missouri Conservation came and redid that land and built the pond and made it ours, but you mentioned that it's theirs.
So that's the agreement that Salee has had with who he bought the property from. He has not owned the property since then. So he just accrued it, within the last couple of months, 2 months?
Well, we've had it since 2005, though.
So in his plan, or at least his hope, and like he had said earlier, is that he hasn't worked out all the details with the HOA, but his hope is to have one singular HOA as opposed to 2 different ones.
Right, but we've been filling it with fish, organizing group cleanups around the whole lake. I'm just curious what we've been doing then, if it's not technically ours.
Okay. We'll try to answer some of those questions when we have a chance.
Okay, thank you. The Missouri Conservation helped with that, so.
MDC, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Do we have any other members of the public who would like to speak? Okay, very good. I will, I'm sorry? Okay, thank you. Mr. Zer, should I leave the public hearing open at this time so that if anybody would like to respond to any of the concerns, or do we close before addressing?
If you close the public hearing and there are questions that are raised by the commission, you can always have individuals that are present come forward in order to respond to those inquiries. But it is appropriate to close the public hearing if there is no more open public comment.
Very good. So I will, if nobody else has any other additional comments, I will close the public hearing at this time. And I do invite the applicant or anybody that might be able to speak on behalf of any of those concerns or questions that were brought up by Mr. Dorsey, either regarding the construction, access, pond ownership, et cetera. If anybody happens. Yes, sir. Mr. Crass.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I would point out that there is not a direct connection at this time between the Alexander Creek property and the proposed preliminary plat. There is a gap that is shown on the property in the southeast corner that is currently zoned agriculture and not under the control of the applicant or the developer of Alexander Creek.
Okay. Thank you, sir. And do we have any additional information on the pond other than what's been presented tonight?
I can make one comment regarding
Please.
that. Again, when the first phase came through, there was a development agreement included with the first phase. That pond serves as a stormwater detention basin for the first phase for the existing 56 homes. And the agreement in that development agreement was that the HOA maintained that pond. So the current HOA for Knoll Creek is responsible for the maintenance of that pond currently. With phase 2 and 3 that Mr. Salee is purchasing, that pond was designed to handle the stormwater runoff from full development of phase 2 and 3. And what we indicated to Mr. Salee is to get a specific stormwater detention agreement. So the HOA, whatever exists for ownership in the phases 2 and 3, have joint responsibility now for the maintenance of that pond. They're all using it. They all need to have joint responsibility for maintaining that. There may or may not be ultimately one HOA for the entire development, but at this point in time, Salee and a future HOA in phase 2 and 3 will have responsibility just like the current owners in phase 1 for perpetual maintenance of that stormwater pond. So it's there to benefit the entire Knoll Creek.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Okay. Any members of the commission have, oh, yes, sir, please. Thank you.
I just wanted to clarify one thing. So when we received our staff report or our information from Jim about the use agreement of that pond, we don't currently own the pond or the land. It's just under contract to be purchased. So the landowner is Knoll Creek LLC that owns the pond area and then also owns the land. We've proposed to them what we think that use agreement will look like for everybody to execute. We're just not able to execute it yet because we're not the owners. So we sent that to the landowner here within the last week or so, I think whenever Jim and I talked. And so that's out there to be executed at some point.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Carteret, you have
So it doesn't have to be that it's transferred to them, just as long as they've got the access rights to it. Got it? Yep.
Yes, sir. Please.
Thank you, Chairman. Just wanted to make sure, and I've confirmed with staff, that the language of the proposed staff recommendation under 1 would contemplate the utilization and access to that. So the developer applicant in this particular case would need to approve or obtain access rights in order to utilize that stormwater detention basin in order for this to be approved as part of, that's one of the conditions that would be imposed upon it. I would simply also note, for purposes of Planning and Zoning Commission's consideration this evening, 470.110 of the UDC, particularly subparagraph 4, C, D, and E, and basically that outlines what your obligations and responsibilities are, including if the preliminary plat does comply with all requirements, the Planning and Zoning Commission will forward the application to the City Council with a recommendation of approval. If the preliminary plat is in general but not complete compliance, the Planning and Zoning Commission may recommend conditional acceptance of the preliminary plat. And finally, if the preliminary plat is not in compliance with all requirements of the Planning and Zoning Commission, will recommend disapproval of the preliminary plat. That would conclude my report.
Thank you, Mr. Zer. Okay. Any final questions or comments from members of the commission?
Chairman?
Yes, sir. Mr. Urquilla.
Yeah. So on the southeast corner that we've been discussing, who is the current owner?
So the current owner is the same. It's Mr. Salee who owns or is planning to own this property here, as well as Alexander Creek.
Well, no, I mean the little portion that prevents the through street being completed.
I think the issue is the current phase that we approved of Alexander Creek somewhat recently was a section to the north, but the creek itself has not been crossed to access that northwest corner of the Alexander Creek development, which in some of the information that was in our packet, which would be that additional, let's call it a dozen lots from basically from the creek crossing to the southeast corner of the proposed section of Knoll Creek. That is undeveloped land, but it is owned by the applicant presently, if that helps, and if that's even close to accurate. Yes, Mr. Grass. Is it, sorry, is your mic on? I just couldn't hear, I'm sorry.
It's actually diagonal. Well, you can see the drawing there. So it actually, the proposed connection, which we're planning for future connection, just like we do any other development, actually crosses, I believe it is the Batliner property. So it is, as I said, it is not possible for, and currently, as you said, we have not seen a development application for that portion of Alexander Creek at this time. So there's two things. One, we don't have, it's not planned, and two, it does require either waiting until that property develops or acquisition from a property owner that's not currently developing any property in the area.
So there is a small section of a third piece of property.
That's correct.
In there as well. Thank you.
And is the drawing, though, accurate to what the city plans to have eventually?
Yes.
So it's planned to look like that. We just don't have a current developer wanting to develop it in such a way that would allow for the
That would allow a road
development
across
of
that small corner. That's correct.
Additional questions or comments by the commission? Okay, if not, I would entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Chairman.
Yes, sir. Take your time.
Yeah, thanks. I'd like to go ahead and make a motion to, I'm sorry, I'm trying to find my little, here it is. To accept the staff proposed finding of fact and forward case number 21036, the Estates of Knoll Creek Subdivision preliminary plat to the City Council with the recommendation of approval subject to the outlined condition.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Mayor? All right, I have a motion by Commissioner Kia, second by Mayor Turnbow to accept the staff proposed findings of fact and forward case 21036, the Estates at Knoll Creek Subdivision preliminary plat to the City Council with a recommendation of approval, subject to the listed condition, which I will read as documentation shall be provided to the city prior to consideration of the preliminary plat by City Council of an agreement that the applicant has access rights to utilize the existing stormwater detention basin located upon Tract C of the Estates at Knoll Creek first plat. Mr. Zer, does that cover everything? Thank you, sir. Any discussion of the motion? All those in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, 9-0. That will conclude our new business for this evening and take us into item 8, the City Council report. Mr. Zer, would that be coming your direction, sir?
Thank you, Chairman. I'm happy to provide the City Council report this evening. Since your last Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, there have been 2 City Council meetings that have occurred. I'll report on both of those. The first one was October 25th, 2021. During the course of that meeting, there were 3 items of interest to the Planning and Zoning Commission. First item was the 7th Amendment to the Creekmore Memorandum of Understanding. It was a public hearing on new business for a first reading. Planning and Zoning Commission, you may recall, had the opportunity to review this on the October 19th, 2021 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, approved it unanimously 8-0. This involves an amendment of the Memorandum of Understanding, which would be the 7th Amendment for the Creekmore development, basically altering the proposed 2-family residential to single-family residential and clarifying the expectations for the completion of 163rd Street within the subdivision. The next item to come before the council was the first reading for the East Brook at Creekmore third and final plat. Again, Planning and Zoning Commission reviewed this on its October 19th hearing or evening and approved it unanimously by a vote to 8-0. This third and final plat requested final plat approval for a 44-lot single-family phase located south of Hampshire Drive, west of North Madison Street. Finally, Planning and Zoning Commission on the 19th had also had the opportunity to review a replat of Stegmeyer Acres, Lot 2. This was a replat of lots in order to break up a large parcel into sub-parcels so that a family could build multiple homes within that small development. Again, this was Lot 2 of Stegmeyer Acres, 1504 North Madison Street, and it split Lot 2 into 4 separate lots. That one, all 3 of those were approved unanimously by the planning or by the City Council for the first reading at the October 25th, 2021 meeting. Thereafter, on November 8th, 2021, a meeting of the City Council occurred. During the course of that meeting, there was approval at second reading for the East Brook at Creekmore third and final plat. Again, this was the 44 single-family phased located south of Hampshire Drive and west of North Madison Street. And then the replat of Stegmeyer Acres Lot 2 was also read a second time and approved. So both of those have gone through at this point. That would conclude staff report, or I'm sorry, City Council report. Obviously, Mr. Caderet, Mr. Crass, and Mayor Turnbow were all present for these events. Oh, I'm sorry, maybe not for Mayor Turnbow. But if there's any additions that they feel is appropriate, I'd welcome their input on the same. Happy to answer any questions.
Perfect. Good. I guess your time is up, Mr. Zur. Did Mayor Turnbow or Mr. Crass or Mr. Caderet anything to add? Thank you all. That would take us into our staff report this evening, please.
Thank you, sir. Looking at our calendar for upcoming meetings, we will have a Planning Commission meeting on December the 7th. We have several items scheduled. There will be a public hearing for a requested conditional use permit. That would be to establish a event center on property located at 16119 Kentucky Road. This would be an agricultural property north of the Harold Estates subdivision. Several properties north of Harold Estates. It's actually closer to where 163rd Street hits Kentucky Road. We'll also consider the site plan for the proposed Watermark apartment community. This is the project that is located directly to the south of Sam's Club on the east side of Dean Avenue. So they'll be presenting their formal site plan for development. Currently, we have the first and second plats for the Sendera subdivision, which was Summit Custom Homes' proposed new development on Hubach Hill Road. We're still awaiting a finalized construction plan, and so if those are not received this week, then we will be postponing those final plats to your a later meeting in December. So that's currently what we have scheduled. We don't have anything currently on December 21st. But there is a lot of activity going on. There's potential that we'll have applications filed for that meeting. We'll keep you posted on that. I believe that concludes my part of staff report. I don't know if Mr. Kraft had anything this evening.
Thank you, gentlemen. Takes us into public comment. Final opportunity for any public comments tonight. If anybody would like to come forward to the podium, please state your name and address for the record. Seeing none, we'll move into commission member comments. I will start at my far right, Commissioner Bowie.
No comment necessarily, but I guess I do have a comment. Thank you for your work. Thank you for staff for all the work you guys done, and thank you for the public for coming out as well. Always good to have the public involved and knowing what's going on and having a concern about what's going on. So with that, happy Thanksgiving to everybody.
Thank you. I'll go alphabetically here. Commissioner Engert.
I'll echo Commissioner Bowie. I appreciate the public here as well and the staff for their fine work and all their efforts that they put together for us.
Commissioner Faulkner.
It's good to see the full commission here this evening, and thank you very much to staff for your support.
Vice Chair Fizer.
Well, I echo the same sentiments as everyone else, or sediments as rock formations and things. So anyway, thanks staff, and everybody have a good Thanksgiving.
Commissioner Manser.
Thank you to the staff. Thank you to the public for coming out, voicing your concerns. It's always important to hear from you, and we do take everything that you say, seriously, and we do what we can with it. So with that, thank you.
Secretary Peterman,
I don't have anything tonight.
Commissioner Kia. Kind of alphabetical.
Turnbow came before.
Well, it does, but
Sorta.
he also has the word mayor before his name, so.
Oh, okay, got it. No, just thank you to staff for everything you do. I'll echo the comments of, it's always good to have the public here. Keep us sharp and make sure we stay focused on what our job is. And happy Thanksgiving to everyone. Thank you.
Mayor Turnbow?
I'll just echo that as well. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone. I don't have anything else this evening.
All right. Thank you, staff and the public, for the discussion this evening. Thank you to those of you on the commission. I really very much enjoy being chairman of this commission, and I thank you for re-electing me. It's both fun, I enjoy it, and it's an honor to serve the city, so thank you very much for that. And if there's nothing else, have a very happy and safe Thanksgiving, and we will see you all on December 4th. That, I would entertain a motion to adjourn this evening's meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Kia, second by Commissioner Bowie to adjourn. All in favor? Seeing unanimous, we are adjourned. Thank you.